Women and the Power of Compassion. This was the theme for the 4th International Sakyadhita Conference on Buddhist Women, held in the first week of August 1995 in Ladakh, northern India. Ladakh is a magical land in the Himalayas at an altitude of 3,600 meters, with bare, snow-capped mountains surrounding green valleys. Tibetan Buddhism is the main religion. Even though the conditions to have such an international gathering seemed unfavorable, like the high altitude, the heavy rain which caused many landslides, getting to Ladakh by road was a long and hazardous journey. In the end, all this added to the uniqueness of this conference. These difficulties may have been a hindrance to some of the participants, but it gave a clear insight into the hardships the Ladakh nuns have to face in their remote nunneries and dwellings. These nuns expressed their gratitude for holding the conference in their country. Many of them had never met nuns and women from other Buddhist traditions. Likewise, some of the participants had been unaware of the existence of so many nuns in Ladakh. The opportunities for study and spiritual practice for these nuns are limited, due to lack of teachers and funds, but the willingness to lead the holy life is very much in evidence. The Ladakh Buddhist Association and the Ladakh Women's Association had prepared the venue for the conference at the Mahabodhi International Meditation Center at Choklamsar, about 10 kilometers outside Leh, the capital of Ladakh. It is a center set in desert-like surroundings. A canopy had been erected to protect from sun and rain, and Tibetan rugs had been spread on the ground. About 100 participants from 25 countries attended the conference, as well as more than 50 nuns from the Ladakh, Zanskar and Kangra valleys. This film wants to give an impression of the conference, where Buddhist women and nuns of all traditions listened to and spoke about nuns' experiences in Burma, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Ladakh and Nepal, and about women in Buddhist cultures, women in health and social development. The opening ceremony on August 1st was attended by High Lamas and the Queen of Ladakh. Sakyadhita General Secretary, Venerable Karma Lekshit Chomo, read a message from His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Working for inner peace, and through that peace in the world, may be blessed with success. Thank you.
Part of his message was, how can we Buddhists contribute to human society? Buddha renounced the worldly life, purified his mind and attained enlightenment. He emphasized the practice of non-violence, and this is still one of the most potent forces for good in the world today. Whenever Buddhism took root in a new land, certain variations in the style in which it is observed occurred, and all those are now available to anyone interested. This 4th conference demonstrates that Buddhist women are casting off traditional and outmoded restraints to dedicating themselves to implementing and promoting Buddhist practices. After a short speech of the Queen of Ladakh, Dr. Chachumaran Kabil Singh, president of Sakyadhita, said that women are the inner strengths of society. Awareness and interest are to be awakened and heightened if we want to promote Buddhism. Venerable Sanghasena, our host at the Mahabodhi Meditation Center, spoke of Ladakh as a land of meditation and prayer. We have to overcome our sectarian views and translate Buddha's message of love and compassion into action, he said. Presented a garland of Tibetan Buddhist women practitioners who have inspired her, and she urged us to create our own lineage of women for inspiration.
Says that women are more likely than men to attend. This quote by Pema Sambhava is famous, at least in the West. Male or female, no great difference, but when she develops the aspiration for enlightenment, to be a woman is greater. Before 1959, Tibet had the largest population of Buddhist nuns of any Asian country. And yet, those nuns in Tibet could not attain full ordination. Indeed, today there are only 2 places in the world where nuns are allowed to attain to the fullest rank of full ordination. Those places are Taiwan and Korea. Now, Tibet has 27,000 nuns prior to the Chinese takeover of 59. But all those 27,000 nuns could only attain to the rank of the lowest ordained person. That is, they were novices. And this fact goes back to a time in the 6th century BC when, in fact, the Buddha founded the order of monks and nuns. Clearly, there a distinction is...
Punyamega of the Western Buddhist order spoke about the harmonies in the Dharma. All schools give directions to attain enlightenment. The Dharma is a means to an end, she said, teaching us ways to detachment and contentment.
And that's done through education. And it's done through education in a general way. That is, educating not only the nuns and women in Buddhism, but I think it's aimed at educating all beings about the plight of nuns, and about the seriousness of their situation vis-a-vis monks and vis-a-vis other, other Sangha members throughout whatever Asian countries. So Sakyadhita has organized now 4 conferences, and it's been meeting as an organization since it was founded in 1987, and this past August in 1995, the 4th Sakyadhita Conference was held. Luckily for all of us, it was held in Ladakh. And that was particularly important because in Ladakh, the whole country of Ladakh, there are about 340 nuns. But those nuns struggle under conditions hard for us to understand. They are churmo, they take shramanarika or novice vows, and for the most of them, there isn't even a gompa, there's not a central temple where they can gather together. In short, in Ladakh, the nuns take the vows because they're committed to living a religious life, but then their situation, socially and economically, makes it impossible for them to practice the Dharma, because in fact they all have to have jobs to support themselves. Karmalechi Somo, with some other Tibetan nuns there in Dharamsala.
Makarudasini, a nun from Burma, said that many people have the wrong view that only poor or widowed women would want to ordain as nuns. Educated and rich women too want to live a nun's life, realizing that material wealth cannot bring happiness.
It's of knighthood at the age of 8, when my parents allowed me to become a nun.
Well, Westerners and Easterners, no matter we are staying in different countries and different places, but we have something in common. That is Buddha's teachings.
Dr. Hiroko Kawanami, who after the conference was elected as the new vice president of Sakyadhita, spent some time as a nun in Burma. Her paper dealt with the relationship between lay donors and monks, which is quite clear-cut, and the relationship between lay donors and nuns, which is rather more complicated. Nuns sometimes feel the relationship is not equal, and feel the burden of always receiving as a heavy one. They rely more on their families than the monks.
Maintain themselves except for donate receiver. And nuns on the receiving side can only chant blessings to the invisible donor. There's no donor there who is understood to be indifferent to accumulate religious merit or whatever blessing is given out for his generosity, as it is breaking the traditional bond that existed between the donor-giver and the non-receiver relationship. The religious significance of alms collecting is becoming subordinated to the material need of money and food, in which a strong emphasis is placed on the material gain, not the spiritual gain. Lay people, Burmese Buddhists give to all monks, or every monk, but that is not the case. They do choose very carefully. Therefore, well, of course, there are one-off donations as a result of general whims. In a similar way, one gives to a beggar. But in this context, I'm talking about religious expenses, which amount to a quarter of expenses of an average Burmese household. They normally give about 25% of their income to religious institutions, or to a monk or a nun, one's religious investment. Lay donors,
they are trying to go and begging alms for receiving in the morning. Buddhist nuns who are very famous, I like to say that they stay there for some time. It's a hard task for women in Theravada countries. Poverty and womanhood is karma bound, determination, the spirit. So I love the lecture.
Dr. Yamyang Palmo is an Amchi, a traditional herbal doctor in Ladakh. She described the deplorable situation of many nuns in remote areas. There is a great lack of money. Therefore, the nuns need to go out working in the fields of parents or relatives to get money to support themselves for food, clothing, and study books. Only in winter do they have time to study. During the lunch breaks, the Ladakhi and Tibetan nuns were holding the traditional dialectic debates. Questions and answers are quickly fired at one another, the nun asking the questions clapping her hands. The nun who in the end gets stuck for another question or another answer has lost. These dialectics have only been taught to nuns since a few years, and this was the first time in history that nuns from different nunneries held such a debate together and with lamas. Pews of one of the nunneries in Yamyang Chuling, founded by Sakyadhita. Nuns receive education by a lama every day with the same subjects as the monks. They learn about hygiene, culture and agriculture. They live together in a former farmhouse.
안에 되지 세상 유명한 태도 많이 받아. 세상 매박도 항상 매비. 안 되지 세상 매바이 받아.
Tusen nattesteder. Det är just och donker. Det ska med täcka.
Wisdom. Compassion alone without wisdom is insufficient. With wisdom means you must always have the understanding and the knowing that when you help, you truly benefit. Not when you think you're helping, but does it really benefit?
Mei Chan from Malaysia spoke about compassion as the expression of wisdom. Through the power of clear comprehension, we get the correct attitudes, he said, to one another and the world. For instance, the realization of the unity of all. Elizabeth Napper is involved with the Tibetan Nuns Project in Dharamsala. As Buddhism travels, it changes and interacts with the culture of the country it goes to. Buddhism was brought to Tibet by two princesses, one from China and one from Nepal.
Princess, the Chinese refused. He sent his troops over to the border, and they kind of made motions and noise there for a while, and the Chinese reconsidered, and the Chinese princess was sent. And in Nepal, she was given much more freely. So these two princesses come to Tibet, and each one came bringing a statue of Buddha. Where women were completely shut out in traditional Tibetan society were government service and the monasteries. Those were the only two areas where there was an actual prohibition.
Kim Kuchoth lived in Leh and Zanskar for 5 years with the nuns of Karsha. She speaks the language of the nuns. She gave a lecture on their situation living in an inaccessible place 500 kilometers from Ladakh.
Donations from up and down the three river valleys, Stork, Lungnak, and Shum. While the woodwork in the assembly hall was completed in '86, the final painting in the Dukang was only completed in the summer of 1990, 14 years after the nuns started working on the temple. The Kachak Dubling Dukang stands as a testimony to the dedication and perseverance of the exceptional nuns of Karsha. The 24 nuns at Chupshidal come from Karsha and nearby villages. Parents generally decide which of their daughters is to become a nun. However, some young nun honors. There's only one nun in all 8 Zanskari nuns who joined the nunnery after the graduation. Incidentally, I should note there are 8 nunneries in Zanskar with a total population.
Modern urban women are likely to be bothered by these midlife
moving beyond subjectivity may sometimes challenge our very notions of feminist self-understanding and development. Simultaneously, it seems to offer an enticingly different path to positive self-realization. Very recently, a number of works have been published that discuss Western women's encounters with Buddhism from a variety of theoretical and personal perspectives.
Starting themselves that they should do something for themselves. So there are very lot of things speaking about equality, about between nuns and nuns. But the nuns are something that they were participating in the leadership and
Venerable Lobsang Tedetchen is a Tibetan nun living in Dharamsala and very concerned with the refugees there.
So they participated in the peaceful demonstration. Because of participating in the peaceful demonstration, they were put in the prison. They were tortured. They were stripped naked and let other people to look at them. They were used electric ropes in their private parts. Some Chinese government does not only that the nuns are suffering, but the monks are also equally suffering. the forefront in Interconference months in Tibet. Even there are many lay people also participating.
During workshops, women came together in small groups and shared experiences. In a workshop on mental health, it was said that nowadays there are more mental health problems in Ladakh than 20 years ago. How can mental health be fostered? Somebody said, try to be a Buddha, not a Buddhist. Dr. Gita Mendes was born in Sri Lanka and is a psychiatrist in Australia. She spoke on mental health, the meeting of Buddhism and psychotherapy. In Buddhism, through Sila, Samadhi and Panya, we can come to liberation. In psychotherapy, a more integrated sense of self is aimed for, through contact and work with a therapist. The practice of loving-kindness meditation is helpful in dealing with patients, generating metta for oneself and the patient.
In an open and responsive manner, aware of the patient's emotional experience. The practice of mindfulness of the present moment attunes mind.
May I kindly introduce Dr. Ladakh.
How critically important is it to understand the Buddha's teaching and the genuine practice for the health of the individual in society? It's applicable to a very core of human society in day-to-day living. For example, indulgence in ill habits like consumption of alcohol.
Knowing that it's very healing to be here. It's very healing to be me every year because the Ladakhi people learned me to open my heart.
After a lecture by Nel Willekens from the Netherlands about empowerment of women, Geshe Nawang Yangchup from Lingshet gave his reaction.
Sakyadhita seminar. This is general I'm happy. Especially that woman who is explaining to her experience. He is really spontaneously, naturally, really special happy. Happiness just eat it from her. General I'm happy, then she's really happy. Then I'm also really very, very happy and enjoy it with her. Yeah. I'm watching
Himalayan nuns together. So you can see how the different traditions do their prayers. This evening, after the supper, the dinner, there will be the showing of the film Keepers of the Faith. Some of us saw it last night. It's lovely.
Exercises explained and demonstrated by Dr. Chachumaran Kapil Singh help to balance the energy.
The next one is 1, 2, 3, play on harp. It is harp, H-A-R-P.
Dr. Chachumaran Kabir Singh from Thailand spoke about prostitution and Buddhism. According to her, Buddhist people in the West should not make the distinction between so-called good and so-called bad daughters of the Buddha.
Point one that I would like to get is prostitutes have equal access to enlightenment. In fact, because these women have experienced the extreme sensuous lifestyle, it is even more likely that they gain enlightenment sooner than ordinary women. The door has been locked for so many centuries. The lock gets rusty. Even if you have the key, you cannot open it. Only with the right understanding of Buddhist teaching, we build up our faith. When the door to ordination for women is open, you will not be surprised that we can actually lessen the number of prostitutes. So, in the gathering, in the audience, the presentation has been successful in that aspect, that it brings in to the focus the feeling that we share with the prostitutes. We share the suffering that these prostitutes feel. They are Buddhist women like us. They have awareness of enlightenment. They have awareness of being on the path like us also.
And what happened to you when you saw all the emotion in the audience?
I think we should let our emotion surge forward so that when it's strong enough, it leads to commitment. It leads to commitment, meaning that each one of us from different corners of the world start doing something to help prostitutes, start doing something to educate our society, to understand the real problem that prostitutes feel, to understand that prostitution is an issue that must be globally responsible.
And who do you think is responsible for the prostitution in Thailand?
I think poverty, lack of education is part of the fundamental reason for prostitution, but also the one who buys the service, meaning the men, meaning Western men. So when you look at problems of in Thailand, it's not the responsibility of Thai society only, but it is responsibility of women and men in countries also, because it's the men from Western countries that come to Thailand to buy the service.
Of your separation from your mother. On the contrary, though, the truth of interdependence, the more subtle, spiritual, and even ecological interdependencies of life are more subtle, and wisdom traditions, not only Buddhism but other wisdom traditions, have encouraged that understanding, have consciously reminded people of that underlying interdependence. So I think we really do have it backwards in the West when we think.
Helena Dorbeck-Hodge, author of 8 Futures, Learning from Ladakh, mentioned how consumer cultures threaten to replace all others. Traditional values are being exchanged for foreign ones. We need to become aware of global structures in global economies. More information is needed about what so-called progress really means and about the shortcomings of the Western model. It is the responsibility of all Buddhists to combat structural greed. Only the Buddha's teachings on wisdom and compassion can liberate us. After the some women participants traveled in small groups with nuns back to their remote nunneries and villages. It was clear that nuns who had not had the opportunity for education were eager to study. In some cases, quick solutions were found. Supply for nuns with private donations. An education program for nuns was started in one village. Plans were made for other projects. During the conference, the groundbreaking ceremony for a nunnery near the 4thInternational Meditation Center took place. Dr. Yamyang Palmo will be in charge of this nunnery once it is built. Other nunneries have been planned as well, but there are no funds available.
Come together as Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, Anicca, Dukkha, another world, and show the way to the growth in mankind. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
After the closing ceremony in the Temple of Leh, there was supper for all participants. With this film, we hope to raise awareness of the need for funds to help the vision of Ladakhi nuns to have their own nunneries become a reality, so that they can devote themselves fully to reaching the final goal, the end of suffering for all living beings.
Yeah.